I'm going to give you some ideas for things to do during the evening hours when you visit Washington, D.C. Hello, welcome to Trip Hacks DC. My name is Rob. I'm a tour guide here in the nation's capital. If you're coming to Washington, D.C. and you're looking for the best tips, tricks, and hacks for exploring the city, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell notification icon so that you don't miss any future videos. And if you're interested in signing up for a Trip Hacks DC tour, head on over to triphacksdc.com afterwards to see the tours that we offer. I made a previous video where I told you about ideas for morning things that you can do when you visit. And this time, I'm gonna follow that theme, but flip it around to evening things that you can do. There are so many things to see and do in DC, but most of the major tourist sites tend to be daytime activities. Things like the museum, Capitol, Library of Congress, and National Archives. They're open till around 5 or 5:30, but then after that, what's to do? We do have a lot of evening activities, they just tend to be less famous. So I'm going to tell you about 6 evening things that you can do when you visit. If you have done any of these evening activities before, leave a comment on this video and let everyone know whether you thought it was a fun thing to do. Otherwise, let's get started. Number 1, the monuments and memorials. I talk about the monuments and memorials all of the time, probably because as a tour guide, my most popular tour, by far, is the Monuments and Memorials tour. The cool thing about the Monuments and Memorials is that they are open 24/7, 365. And really, there is no bad time to see them. But because they're open all the time, it makes sense to plan your itinerary so that you see the daytime activities when they're open during the day, and save the monuments, which are open all the time, for the after hours. The monuments and memorials are also excellent for families because it's a totally kid-friendly activity. Of course, I am a tour guide, so I highly recommend a tour of the monuments and memorials. So you can check out the video description if you're interested. Number 2, the Portrait Gallery and American Art Museum. Most Smithsonian museums are open from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. In the summer, a select number of museums on the National Mall do stay open a couple hours later, but only on a limited number of dates. But every day, you can see these 2 museums all the way up until 7 o'clock. There's also the Kogod Courtyard, which is a cool place just to hang out. And aside from the courtyard, these 2 museums are actually pretty awesome and underrated. They're not on the National Mall, but they're a short walk away, and it's worth making. Number 3, see a game. For the most part, professional sports are evening activities, at least during the week. Baseball, soccer, basketball, and hockey usually start around 7 o'clock and go late into the night. Football is the one sport where this doesn't really apply, since the games are usually on Sundays during the daytime. But for the other sports, the great thing is that they're all family-friendly activities. Now, of course, it's not going to be free or cheap, and people love to complain about the price of hot dogs at pro games, but it's still something worth considering. And if you are interested in going to a game, I have an entire video about our pro sports teams that you should go and check out. Number 4, Union Market. Union Market calls itself the epicenter of culinary creativity in DC. Most people just call it a modern food hall. Whatever you call it, it's a great place for food, drinks, coffee, and all other food-related stuff. Union Market is open 7 days a week, 8 to 8 Sunday through Wednesday, and 8 to 9 Thursday through Saturday. This also came up in my podcast about good things to do in DC with kids. My guest Austin talked about this as being one of his favorite places to bring his family. Number 5, see a show. I talk about seeing shows at the Kennedy Center in a lot of my videos. If you're into theater, orchestra, or opera, and you can swing the price of the tickets, the Kennedy Center is an awesome place to see a show. It might not be as famous as Broadway in New York City, but the performances really are top-notch. If the Kennedy Center is out of range, then the good news is that DC actually has a thriving theater scene. I'm not going to run through all of the theaters in this video. I will just say that there are quite a few. The website Gold Star is actually a great place to look for tickets, especially if you're on a budget. You can get a taste of what shows are out there, and maybe even get a discount on one if you find something you like. And number 6, Nightlife. I saved this one for last because this is really more for the 21 and over crowd. And when you think of evening things to do, Nightlife is kind of the obvious one. Now, the Nightlife epicenter tends to shift every few years, but at least now, in 2019, a lot of it is around U Street and 14th Street, which are both north of downtown. But there's also nightlife concentrated in the Adams Morgan neighborhood, as well as DuPont Circle, and a little bit over in Georgetown. The thing is, you can find nightlife in just about every neighborhood. It might not be hoppin' on a Wednesday night, but maybe that's more your speed anyway. During the week, the happy hour scene is actually quite lively, Maybe not the nightlife scene, but nonetheless. And that's it. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, you can subscribe to this channel by clicking on the Trip Hacks DC logo, which is popping up right now at the bottom of the screen. And if you're coming to DC and want to sign up for a Trip Hacks DC tour, you can click on the Capitol Dome on the left side of my head. That'll send you over to triphacksdc.com, where you can see all of the tours that we offer. Enjoy your trip!